I'm with my friend Greg DeMarco, and we're talking about everyone communicates, few connect. And today we're into chapter two. Connecting is all about others. And how you doing, Greg?
I'm good, other than just a little under the weather with a flu or something, but it's all good. I'm here in lovely Alberta, Calgary, and visiting my daughter and my sister here. And yeah, I've forgotten how nice it is here actually. So
In
it's all good.
Calgary, you have a nice view of the foothills, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's nice. It's nice to get away. Right now in Ontario, it's hot and humid, and it's nice to sort of get out of that and into fresher air, cooler. I like it.
Well, see, I'm glad you're there, so I can empathize with you. It's all about others, right? So you're
That's
the
right.
other right today.
I'm the other. So it's all good, my man. How are you?
We're good. Last week was an amazing week. We on Wednesday we went over to the Sunshine Coast, which did not disappoint. I love going over there because my sister and my brother-in-law own a 31 and a half foot sailboat, and
Oh, nice.
they moor it in Gibson's, and it's you don't I don't have to twist my brother-in-law's arm at all to get him to go out sailing. So the weather was gorgeous. It wasn't too hot, and the we got in some good sailing. We had two afternoons of sailing, and then we drove up to Powell River, which is another ferry ride, and to visit with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law who were visiting up there from California. And
Nice.
then we came back, stopped in Seashell again, and did another afternoon of sailing. So,
Nice. Yeah, it's nice to get out on the water, isn't it?
oh yeah, it's gorgeous. It was just an amazing couple days. But we're here to help others, not to talk about ourselves. And
That's right.
and that's an interesting thing, because I think there, some of the different points that John makes in this chapter is that we need to learn how to connect beyond just the words. Like I think it's effective communication is more than just talking to one another. It's your body language. I mean, if I'm sitting there talking to you and I was like this all the time, in our conversation, you'd think, okay, this guy isn't interested in this conversation at all, right? But when you're focused on the other person, you care about what's happening in their life, you care about what's happening with them right at the moment. Like you had you're under the weather and you were traveling, and I can't think of two things that don't go well together, you know more than traveling and not feeling well. you know so um,
That's right.
so it's important to recognize what's going on in another person's life, and that's really how we connect is by understanding what's going on in that other person's life.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good point, and I often stress this with clients I speak with, but it has a lot to do, obviously, with understanding the other person's perspective, right? And if we enter into situations where the intention is to understand somebody else's point of view, or to empathize, or to just see where they're at in their life, I think that goes a long way to creating a connection with them, for sure.
Yeah, and one of the ways we do that is by finding common ground, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so common ground, I mean, I knew that if telling you about being on a sailboat for a couple of days, you would understand all that because you used to sell those things, right? I don't know if you actually sold sailboats, but
No, we didn't sell sailboats because I don't like sailboats. Uh, we always said power is the way to go, not sailing. But it doesn't matter. Any way to get on the water, as far as I'm concerned, is a great thing. And as soon as you started talking about it, I kind of perked up. So
yeah. Well, it's interesting, right? Like but those are the things. If I went on and on and on and on about how I felt about everything, and I wasn't, trying to interact with you, I mean, that's where we get ourselves in trouble is when all we want to do is talk about ourselves. And I was thinking about when I was reviewing this information, I was thinking about how sometimes in when we're as salespeople, when we're making a presentation, we think we want to present ourselves in the best possible light, but sometimes we spend so much time on what we've accomplished and what, maybe I might think that someone wants to list their house with me because I've been in the business for 40 years, but me being in the business for 40 years means nothing if I don't connect with them at where they're at and what their needs are at this moment. Or maybe somebody might think, okay, I need to tell people that I've sold, 100 houses, and that makes them, but that then I'm making the conversation about me. I'm not really connecting with others. I'm building myself up, and I'm not looking for what's really important to them.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point to make, because it is all about the other person. It always should be. If it's not, then you're thinking too much about yourself. And what's the worst conversation to have with somebody is when they're just talking about themselves.
So how do we make sure that we are connecting with someone? What are some steps that we could take? Do you think?
Well, I mean, we always have to focus on the other person. So when it comes to connecting, I kind of like to find out and ask them questions about themselves, right? So I'm finding what kind of commonalities we have together, what values do we share, what experiences have we had, what have they done, what's their interests, their perspectives on things. And when we talk about when we're engaging with other people and we ask them about themselves, you'll find, oddly enough, that people like to talk about themselves. So when you get them talking about themselves, that's when you're learning about their perspective, their interests, their needs. It's what we call in the business active listening. And
Yeah.
when we listen to them genuinely, it means that we're learning about them and we're making a connection, because people do like to talk about themselves. And what's more important is when they do talk about themselves, they're saying to themselves, wow, this person is interested in me. Somebody is taking interest in me.
Yeah. Yeah, that goes a long ways and I think that's one of John's major points. He talks about the three questions that people are asking about you. The first question they ask is, do you care? Does this person care about me? And I think what you're saying is asking questions about people, where they're at, what's going on in their life. Those kinds of things are very, very important that show that you actually care about what's happening, what's going on in their life. I remember, I think we've talked about it before, but I keep remembering, my old Dale Carnegie How to Win Friends and Influence People course that I took 40 years ago. They talk about how to have a conversation with somebody, and because people want to talk about where they live, so that's something like, so you envision that house, people want to talk about their family, so you talk about if they're not married and have kids, then you talk about their brothers or sisters, where do they come from. People want to talk about their job, what do they do for work, what do they do for fun, have they been traveling lately. We can talk about your trip to Calgary. Next week we'll talk about your trip to Calgary and all the things that you did,
Yep.
but all those, so there's different ways that you can learn how to connect with people. So that's the first question that John says that people are asking about us is, are what do they care about me? And I think a very important question.
Well, obviously, and that is what they're saying. If they're saying, do they care enough about me? And that's where you start to build trust. And that's how people get engaged, right? Because you're asking about them.
Yeah.
And you'll never underestimate that power, because when somebody sees and they feel, it's like the what was that lady's name, Maya Angelou. And it's a quote I'll never forget, because she says it doesn't matter what somebody did or say about you, it's how they make you feel that makes the biggest difference. And never ever underestimate that, the power of that, because it is how someone makes you feel that creates this kind of trust or caring, you know, for them. Because if you make them feel good about themselves, that is such a powerful influence. It goes way beyond anything else.
Yeah, that's actually the third question that John says people are asking about you is, can I trust you? And that's a big deal, for people, especially depending on what you're selling, I think, or what if you're, and our conversations are mostly, geared around sales, around the sales process. So, I mean, but it relates to all levels of conversations, all levels of relationships. But if you don't have trust in your relationship, somebody's not gonna list their house with me unless they trust me. I mean,
Yeah.
that's typically their biggest investment that they have in their lifetime is their house. So you want to know that they want to know that they can trust me, and that's really a really important question. And one of the other questions that the second question is actually, can I help them? They want to know that I can help them, so, and do I do that by giving them a list of all my accomplishments, or all the degrees I have, or all that stuff? I don't think they really care about that stuff, do they?
No, no, I don't think so. I mean,
Well, we should qualify that, though. I mean, if we go to somebody and say, "Oh, I had to get my gallbladder out last month or a couple months ago," and
yeah,
I wanted to know that the doctor had the qualifications. Okay, that time it was important, for me to know that he had that degree, that he had the skill, that he had, done this before. So
yeah, yeah. No, I mean that makes a big difference for sure. I think that in the end, when it comes down to it, is people have to have a certain amount of trust and want to know that you care enough about them, as we discussed, to take interest and be able to help them. How can you help me get what I need? And that comes down to how much do we care and how much empathy do we have, because that is so critical to connecting and understanding and addressing somebody's emotional concerns, because that's what it comes down to.
yeah, but when we're trying to connect with somebody, we got to remember too that we need to be genuine and authentic.
Yeah,
If we're being superficial about caring, when we don't really, it's that they're going to recognize that. They can spot a fake a long ways away. Like if you went down and bought some cowboy boots and a cowboy hat and went walking around Calgary because that's what everybody does, people might look at you and say, "Look at the dude,"
he's from Ontario.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that probably wouldn't be a good idea. But yeah, you have to be authentically you always. But
yeah.
that's like with everything in life. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to pretend to be somebody else?
Well, some people do. Some
No.
I think sometimes we think that we have to be somebody else in order for people to like us. But I think we have to be aware of our identity. As I was, uh, I'm always trying to learn something new and that kind of thing. But I was so I one of guys that I was in business with before, or he was one of our realtors and was very, very successful. And he's helping other realtors now be successful. But one of the things he says is, be yourself. He says authenticity is key. Be true to who you are, whether that's a beach bum or a suit wearing professional. People can spot a fake from a mile away. And I was thinking, we had another realtor in our office who was also very successful, tragically passed away way too early, but he always wore a rugby shirt and shorts. What do they call them? Cargo pants or whatever. He was always wearing his cargo pants and a rugby shirt because that's who he was. He had a big beard, scruffy guy, and he was a former rugby player. But his clients absolutely adored him. He was a good guy. But so he was authentic. And then you got other guys that I know, they dress up, they want to drive the fancy car, do all the other kind of stuff. And, so is that part of a show, or is it authentically who they are? I think so. It's really important for us to be authentic.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to make because I think it's absolutely true. I think you can spot somebody who's trying too hard, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't bode well for the relationship. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that people, people are people. They want to talk about themselves. I hate to say it, but they do. But they want to. They don't want to just do that with anybody. And I think this is the a key point. They want to do it with somebody who actually cares about them. And that's the thing about connecting with people. If you show that you're genuine and that you care about them, that you've taken interest out of uh, an authentic situation, a position of authenticity. And when you can show them that, they will open their hearts.
I
And
think,
that's where you connect with people.
yeah. Yeah. One of the, there's a guy that was, I think Jeffrey Gitomer. He was a sales
Yeah,
trainer,
I
right?
know the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he did some really good stuff, and I don't know if he's still active or not. But he said that trust is even more important than love. In a transaction, sometimes that's true, but trust comes from love too. So caring about people is about the love. So I don't know if I totally agree with what that statement says, but I think when we look at it and say, okay, trust will come from loving somebody. When we love somebody, then that trust is going to come. And I mean, I don't mean that we're their best buddy or whatever, but when we love somebody, we treat them with respect, and we treat them with dignity. We give them dignity. That's, I think, the basis of that, and then we develop trust. And
Yeah.
I think it's important too that we look at how we respond to them. Like, are we enthusiastic? Do we have energy? Or when we're with somebody, are we a drag? Are we, even when you're not feeling well, right? Like today, you're
Yeah.
still actively pursuing being engaged in this conversation. Even though you probably wish that you were still in bed and getting over everything, right?
Oh, am I? I thought I blanked out there. Are we still talking?
Yeah.
No, I get it. You're right. We expend a lot of energy. It does. And for certain personality types, if we talked about this before, it can be a lot of energy, right? And but connecting with others requires a lot of energy and effort. And it's about being present and actively being engaged in the conversation that we're with, right? It does take a lot of energy, and for someone like you and I, like I am like that, where it does, like, I do like being with people, but only for it zaps my energy, where I have to sort of go and be by myself to sort of regain some of that. But yeah, it's a lot of energy that we expand doing that.
Yeah, some people have to work at it harder, but it's important. It's important for us to do. I think even well, I think just being actively aware, helps us stay engaged, because I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm with somebody, and I can go zone off somewhere and be thinking about something else, and then they ask me a question, and I don't know what they asked me. That's not a very good way to engage with energy and enthusiasm. You need to be paying attention to what they're saying, right? So I've
Yeah.
learned that doesn't go very well. So unfortunately, I learned the hard way. But anyway,
No, I've often been accused of that myself. What? Sorry, did you ask me a question?
yeah. What are we talking about today?
Yeah.
There we
Well, that
go.
also comes with age, I think, a certain amount of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I think that connecting, I really like talking about because there. I don't know why, as of late, I've had this conversation with so many people, but a lot of people don't get it. They just don't get the whole. You start talking to someone, and they just automatically just start talking about. I don't know. It just seems like it's harder. People don't understand the connection between being authentic and getting engaged and trying to find out about somebody else, like how to do that. And really, it comes down to it's about them, not you, if you want to connect with them.
Do you think that maybe has something to do with our multimedia culture that we have? So everybody goes on to Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or TikTok even, and they present themselves and they try to present themselves in the most positive light. When we're looking at social media, we're looking at what someone else is representing as their best life, and we look at it and we sometimes think, oh, I'm going to have to compete with that. When in reality, um, they're no different than anybody else. They have ups and downs in their day, and we need to look and say, okay, well, how do we be authentic? Be real. When somebody's grieving, you need to grieve with them. When someone's happy, you need to be happy with them. When somebody's sad, you need to be sad with them. But so I think in some ways, the fact that we are like we are is partly due to the type of culture that we have and the media, the social media that we consume.
Well, if we're just consuming and not interacting, I think that's a really dangerous situation because we're not learning to interact, we're learning to consume.
Yeah.
There's a difference there. And you and I have talked about this in other podcasts where we're just you have to be available for people. You have to learn to interact with them. And it's always better to do that. If you were just a society of consumers, then what are we learning?
That's a good point. Very
You know?
philosophical sounding point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing I even came up with that considering I'm sicker than a dog right now.
Well, there we go. Well, I don't want
uh,
to keep you any longer there, Greg, but it's been a good conversation. And again, we're
yeah.
talking about John C. Maxwell's book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. And this was chapter 2. Connecting is all about others. And that's what I think we need to have as a light bulb moment where we realize that it's not just about me, that
Yeah.
it's about others. It's about who I'm with. And I think if we take that approach that we're here to serve, in our sales careers, that we'll gain a lot of ground just by having that attitude, and then working on your skills as well.
Yep.
So, did you have
No,
any
it's all
final
good.
words of wisdom?
Yeah, I think I poured out the last bit of it with that last comment. I can't think of anything else, John.
Okay, great. Well, it's been great seeing you. Get better soon,
Yeah.
and we'll see you
Appreciate
soon.
it.
And if you're working
Talk.
your way across to the west, we're not that much farther out here in Vancouver. So,
I hear you.
yeah. All righty. You take care.
We'll talk. Thanks. Bye.